Crestron's new experience center in New York, the eternal showroom debate. OliverIQ offers smart home as a service and what that means for control systems in the home, and building the ultimate home office. All that and more on ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 454, A Tale of Two Offices. Welcome to ResiWeek, your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential side of the AV industry. I am not Matt Scott. That's pretty clear to tell because I'm several feet shorter. However, I am here to talk about all those ResiWeek things. And instead of me pretending that I know what I'm talking about, I actually have a panel of experts that know exactly what we're doing, including Jason Knott, who is a data solutions architect at D-Tools. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Mitch. Thanks for having me.
Mark Feinberg, president of the Home Theater Advisors, who's out on location.
Thanks for having me, Mitch. Yeah, I didn't have a chance to get back to the office, so, had to make my office in Central Park today.
Now we can get you some ASMR in the middle of your ResiWeek.
Exactly.
And joining us today, Brad Cook. He is the head of product and integrations for Alfred International. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Mitch. Happy to be here.
We start off with a story from Residential Tech Today. Crestron opens their New York City flagship experience center. They've unveiled this in New York. The Crestron Experience Center is an immersive environment where visitors can experience the full potential of Crestron's workplace and smart home technology solutions firsthand. It's a showroom. We've had a conversation. The pendulum has swung so many times at this point, it's going to probably start rotating around of showrooms are not important. Showrooms are dead. Oh, wait a minute. People want to see these things firsthand, and looking at it on a sheet or on a screen on your phone isn't very important. Mark, you're the closest to this being in New York, so I'll start with you on it. What does this do for you as an integrator? Like, does this kind of help you to push your customers to say, hey, check this out. Here's where you can get all this cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm a Control4 dealer, and I wish I had something like this in my toolbox. Crestron has had an experience center in the city for a very long time. They used to be in the D&D building. I think they've now moved to the design center, is what this article is about. I was just at the Savant Experience Center last week to check it out. They're phenomenal. These companies, these are more than a showroom, because the manufacturer can go and they can amortize the cost, a couple $1 million of build out across all of the sales they do in that region, not just one dealer trying to foot the bill for the entire thing. It's amazing what they can pull together. And from what I've heard anecdotally from dealers who are able to take use of these, is when you bring a client to one of these experience centers, they see things in a way that you just can't describe and you can't really even demonstrate in a small showroom, and sales commensurately respond to that. Clients are more likely to do the automated shading, the automated lighting, the centralized lighting, distributed video, when they can see how it actually all comes together and how it can work in a large space. Often these spaces have little vignettes. They have a kitchen, they have a bedroom, they have a living room, they have a theater, and you can see how the control system can pull that all together. I really wish Control4 would do one in the city. It's really frustrating that we don't have one. That Control4 is gone. The individual dealer showroom, and really put that onus on the individual dealers to have showrooms as opposed to doing something that their competitors all have.
Yep. I'll take it a step further. I think the one thing that I like about this is what you just hit on, Mark, that it is in the design center. And I know like Lutron has a space in the D&D building. I think Hunter Douglas has a space in the D&D building. But I like that it not just is a place where integrators can bring clients, but potentially designers who are in there looking at other products are then going to come upon the showroom. And then I'm assuming Crestron is going to have some sort of a referral scenario set up for integrators, designers to connect with integrators. Savant already has that Manhattan showroom too. So it's good that they have that for, I think, connecting with the design community just as much as connecting with integrators there.
And it makes it easy to make an appointment with a designer because they're in a D&D building all the time. be like, oh, let me know next time you're going to be in the D&D building and carve out 30 minutes. Let's go look at Crestron together.
Brad, are showrooms important these days? Like I've said, we've kind of swung back and forth between saying they're good or they're not important. How important is it to show a customer like what the product can do in an environment?
I think it's actually still very important. I know we were a lot of referencing Crestron and some of the higher end dealers, but I remember even 5-6 years ago when things were still well established, going around and speaking with some of these teams and wondering how they were concerned about the regular consumer product sector getting easier and easier. And I think one of our other stories later on will tie into how that's maybe getting easier and easier for people to achieve automation and experiences that maybe will encroach upon these really well thought out and well-born systems. So seeing, I think, especially for some premium systems like Crestron, I know you're looking for one mark for Control 4, but some of these things, people are investing a lot of money in these products, and they're ultimately everybody's trying to get to a more frictionless experience. And there's still clearly a lot of value to be had by going into these places. So seeing in person, I think, is critical, right? Some of these shows people go to, but having a nice showroom is let's just say a trade show, no matter how nice a booth is never going to be as nice as a really nice, well done facility like that.
What I've heard from many integrators, Brad, is that the showroom doesn't necessarily close the deal for them, but on average, if they have a showroom, they have a higher average ticket sale.
That would make sense.
So in other words, they sell more product.
Yeah, well, point of purchase sale retail people would probably say the same thing. You know, that you just need to put it in front of their right in front of their face and see it. But there's a lot of people, my wife included, very visual, right? They love design elements, whatever else. But you could show her a million pieces of paper, even videos of people interacting with this. Until she sees it in person, she's not going to have the comfort level. And as we know, these are big investments for people, and they add a lot of value. So I think it's really nice for a lot of people to see it in person.
Yeah, and especially, in New York City, where it's very financially difficult to have an individual showroom for a dealer. To be able to, have the manufacturer showroom is huge because commercial real estate is incredibly expensive here. And there's very few, if any, large showrooms in the city.
Yeah. And, the other angle, because we work with retail quite often, is the retailers are spending a lot of money. The general big box retailers are spending a lot of money and effort to try to figure out how to showcase experiences with smart tech. And as they do, they're well funded. So as they do become better and better, it's more important for probably premium services to really show you the difference between a Best Buy, Home Depot. Look at this. Look how wonderful everything works together. It's seamless. And, people in the professional space will be like, that's not what we would call seamless. Let me show you what seamless looks like.
Moving on to a story that you kind of alluded to. OliverIQ has released a multi-protocol hub with complete smart home as a service offering. It's funny because I was thinking that this was a kind of do-it-yourself thing, but they explicitly say in the article, unlike do-it-yourself platforms, OliverIQ is the first truly complete smart home offering. I'm sure everyone that says they're the first thing is always the first. Smart home as a service, we've had as a service things as plenty of times, but it's an interesting kind of shift from the control system side of things that we usually have. Usually you have kind of a hub going on, but using a device or something like that to kind of move your things around has been a lot more efficient. Jason, I'll start with you. Have you seen how the trends have changed kind of in that way?
Yeah, so we have, looked really closely at the data that we are able to glean from the integrators who are using DTools Cloud, which is now over 3,300 integration companies on DTools Cloud. So it's becoming much more representative of the full market. But it was shocking to me because I looked at this data a couple months back, and the percentage of control solutions that are being offered in proposals and then obviously subsequently being closed in booked business or signed deals is down over 20% in the last 3 years. So integrators are, what I hear anecdotally from integrators is the reason that they're not offering as much control is because of the service element, and that they can't, they just are smaller companies and they don't have the ability to service, and most of their service calls are control related, according to them. So this seems like an interesting solution because OliverIQ is bringing in this Ollie chat bot that is allegedly, according to the article, going to handle a lot of the questions that might come from an interactive control system that's taking multiple subsystems and kind of linking them together. So they're definitely addressing that pain point with this. But whether this is going to be something that stems that tide, I don't know. I think customers are becoming accustomed to having multiple apps and individual apps for different subsystems, and I don't know if that trend is going to continue or if it's reached its bottomed out level at this point.
I kind of hope that it's the latter because I'm a little sick of having the multiple things to control my lights, control the thermostat, find out that the Sonos app, which we've already talked about many extensively for the past few weeks. Mark, what I don't expect you to know the full answers of everything, but at the same time, this is the show, so that's what I'm going to do. Why do you think that we kind of are moving away from that control system space and into this app-based structure?
I think it's kind of probably a couple things. One, I think you do have, some clients, they don't view having, a folder of apps as negatively as they viewed having a coffee table of remote controls. They're fine to open, this app for lighting, this app for music, this app for their HVAC. I also think a big driver is significantly decreased need for universal remotes. Soundbar-based surround systems for your typical family room have gotten quite good. Cable boxes are now very thin and small and can slip right behind the TV. You don't have, a cable box. You don't have to centralize your AV as much. You have a smart TV and maybe a cable box tucked behind the TV. So you have that clean look on the wall. You don't need a centralized AV system as much. You don't need distributed video as much. So I think that on the video side of things, particularly, you don't need the control system as much. And then if you don't need it on the video side, then people are more okay having multiple apps to do their audio and their lighting and their shading and things like that. We try to sell it as not reducing the apps. We try to sell it as integrating everything together. The biggest example I give people is that, when I leave my apartment, I hit a goodbye button. It turns off the lights. It turns off the TVs. If it's going to be over 70 degrees that day, it closes the shades. It turns the air conditioning down. If you have an alarm system, you can alarm the alarm system all with one button push. And that you can't do with a folder full of apps. So, if people find the convenience in that in shutting down their entire house on their way out the door, or when they go to sleep at night from their bedroom, that's where people see more value. Although it's an expensive proposition to integrate all of that, to have the control system and have the smart lighting and have the automated shades. So, they have to be those people who are into the technology to make that happen as well.
I mean, the main thing that they're talking about here is their AI chatbot kind of thing to diagnose. And Jason, we already said a little bit about that, but I'll just kind of steal from him. Is this kind of a way to do support? Like, is this the perfect Band-Aid, or are we is this what AI can be used for rather than, I don't know, just sticking it on something like a sticker and saying this has AI on it?
Well, first step is always the sticker, and then we figure out how useful it is. I would say in this case, I've seen some of the demos of all of our stuff, not necessarily this particular aspect of it, but they do some pretty impressive demos in person for a system that doesn't necessarily involve, a lot of professional integration and things like that. If I would say, and Jason, you were talking about some of the data points you get back and whatnot, and I don't know what data points Oliver will share from their sales information, but I would be curious to see. This is definitely a pain point, right? Regardless of what we think the reason for the stimulus for that pain point, we don't really know how sticky it is or exactly where it comes from. So perhaps they're onto something. If you can use AI, I was even thinking not necessarily even just for the diagnosis part, which I think could be good. And I'm sure there's lots of pretty good service trees or FAQ trees that a lot of systems have nowadays that avoid having to get to a person first. But even if it's a iterative step there, I think if they're trying to find a way on the automation side to, Mark, what you talked about, that type of situation, I think the big drop we have is we have a couple different levels. You're trying to get people in to adopt in the first place, right? Typically a control 4 type customer, Crestron type customer. They may be somebody who has a, high net worth or lots of a big availability of funds to do something, but it could be it's rarely probably somebody who's just out of the box and was debating whether to buy a Google Home speaker and a lock or Control 4, right? So if they can find a way to get people who have already adopted, so they've hit the step 1, right? They have a few items in their house, they like them, they're doing basic things, but as you know, they're not doing smart things. They're not having a massive, acceleration of utility from all these things working together. Then if they've used this AI to kind of help build those if-then situations a little bit easier, as in say, oh, I have this button, I have this, I have that. I don't know. We'll have to see that in practice if that works. So them focusing on the smart home as a service as the support side, I think is very interesting. I think we'll see how much of a pain point that really was for a lot of people, and then how much it pushes their sales. I wish them the best, and I hope that works. It's a big learning curve for us, and if they can help automate the adoption journey for people, I think that is a great way to add AI to a lot of people's things. Because even myself, I have lots of pieces, and I like using them, but I'm also kind of lazy. So like I'm like, I know how to do that, but I'll just turn it off. I'll just do it, right? And I think a lot of people get like that. They have 20, 30, 40 devices, and they don't bother making more than 1 or 2 automations. If I just could say, hey, Oliver, how do I turn off this light after 7 o'clock? And if it's cold outside and nobody else is in the house, could you do this? And if it helped me find a way to do that with my devices, that would be super powerful. And I think it would not only get people into it, I think it would truly do the smart home thing, which services like Control 4 and Crestron actually provide.
If it could take all that programming that I do, and you could just, speak what do they call it in chat world? Not a query, but a prompt. You could just speak a prompt of what you want it to do, or type a prompt of what you want it to do when I push this button, and it just happened instead of me doing all the programming or configuration in the background. Homeowners don't want to call me and ask me to do this. They don't. Surprised they don't want to bug me, which I'm like, no, bug me. I want you to like your system. They could, a lot of them, the more tech savvy ones want to do it themselves. There are plenty who would be beyond confused, even just with an OliverIQ. They won't use ChatGPT. They're intimidated, and that's what we're here for too. So to be able to have both sides of it is kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely wouldn't mind that. As much as I snark about AI, I am legitimately interested in that. But I, also have my parents who are the ones who are hitting the thing to just be like, just get to the operator. I want to get past this robocall. I just get right to the guy and get someone to talk to. So having either side actually works out really well. All right, moving on to our last story from Residential Systems, building the ultimate home office from friend of the show, Ian Bryant. Breaking down and discussing some of the essential home office components, from internet infrastructure, some nice displays, good audio, the things you need for a remote work experience. As much as some companies are still trying to fight it, and then other companies are saying our employees are adults and we can handle them being remote workers. We are seeing the work from homes thing definitely still take place. I myself, if you're looking at this on YouTube on the video side, I am in my home office, which is also my bedroom, which is why I'm usually the producer in the background. Brad, we'll start with you here. What are customers looking for when it comes to having a solid setup for their home office?
Well, the easy answer is it varies, but I think in general, ultimately they're going to a place where they're comfortable, where they can ideally, and I can speak from experience because I too work from home most days. I came in today by chance, so I'm doing it from the office, but my wife works from home most days. Her business has transitioned that way. Now, I will say we've built a couple nice spaces for us to work, and then we constantly drift around the house because of laptops and other things. So I think that's a new thing that's as far as flexible workspace. Mark, you're quite flexible today. In the middle of the park there. So I think some of this it started off where, when I was growing up, if somebody did have a home office, it was a home office. And I think there is some of that where it's dedicated spaces. People want to get away. They want to find a spot where when they are finished and they're not working, they leave that spot. And then when they're not in that spot, it helps them decompress and break off. And others, and I think this is, I don't know if it's a healthy thing or not, but I'm sure a lot of you can relate. I don't know where the line is anymore. I feel like I'm fairly comfortable with that, but my phone, our phones can do everything. Like you're on your phone now, Mark, you can transition into something else and start talking on, GitHub about something in 4 seconds too, if you wanted. So we have kind of this seamless working environment. And I think offices and companies are also doing a lot of effort. Actually, I know this firsthand, especially large corporations. They're doing a lot of efforts to be flexible and allowing people to, have 20 minutes here and go to an appointment and come back and get their work done. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Most people in most cities have to commute, and a short commute is going to be 45 minutes. That's a short commute. In a big city, I'm in Toronto up in Canada, most people are coming downtown. You're going to be an hour and a half easy if there's no traffic. It's not through snow. It's not, none of that. So it's a lot worse in a lot of cases. So what's 30 minutes in the middle of the day? So I think they want some devices, but I think on the smart home side, just to tag in there for some of the other stuff we're talking about, it changed a lot. I can see this on the lock side. It changed a lot because people were home more, right? We still had people adopting, but now it was more of a less of the what's the away button, because I hit that every day and close out my house for the day. And now it's like, but almost always somebody's at the house now, right? There's somebody home, somebody's doing something. The kids then come home and whatever. So it's changed the way we've added automation, and it's had to be a little smarter than simply the 8 hours when we're home and or sleeping and then the weekend. It's really an intermixed space of how do I want my home to be smart during the day when I'm in it, right? Like, do I want to do anything?
I think it's really a tale of two cities in terms of, I think, Brad, you're 100% right that the home office market, or home office is the future. Everybody's, even if people go into the office, they still have a home office too. But I think the market for integrators in the home office is limited. And I speak from talking to integrators when COVID happened, and literally they were saying that almost all the home offices that they did were at the CEO level, the executive C-suite, where they were putting in all the things that Ian Bryant's describing in this article, the curved displays and the ergonomic furniture and the high-end microphones and all that sort of stuff, the Meridian speakers for the home office. But for once you get past that C-suite level, companies just left their people. You're on your own, and it's the market for integrators, I believe, past the C-suite for home office is very limited. That it's mostly going to be the employee with a laptop at his kitchen table or whatever it might be on his phone in Central Park. But I do find it ironic that this article was written by Ian Bryant, who has spent the last 4 years living in a camper on the road with his dog, Odin. So he should know what it's entailed to be on a home office, but home is wherever he parks his camper at night. So
maybe that is the ultimate home office, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, early on in COVID, people wanted to be able to do their Zooms with their families from the living room, and they were looking for cameras and better sound, and it was an expensive proposition, and frankly, it was a little outside of my skill set, so I didn't do much of that. Now, what I'm seeing is maybe they ask for a better camera, a better microphone. I point them in the right direction because now I'm getting involved in setting up their computer with those things, and I don't want to get involved in getting into especially their business computers that are provided by their company. What I've seen, the benefit to integrators at this point is really everybody needs a rock solid network at this point. It's really brought about the importance of a rock solid network throughout the apartment or the home, because you might not just be in that office. You might be at the dining room table. Your kids might have some asynchronous work they're doing at school. They might have team meetings that they're doing from their bedroom. So you have to have that rock solid Wi-Fi throughout. And to some extent, it's brought back having hard point Ethernet connections in some critical spaces. So an extra, extra few drops in a home. Not a lot of revenue, but it's a little bit. But it's really the end user and the homeowner knowing when I come in and I'm quoting, a $5,000 to $10,000 network and not just, a couple of, Eros or Google Homes for them to have Wi-Fi or Google Wi-Fi's. The rationale behind that makes more sense now than it did 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Mark. I should have said the network element is the niche for the integrator for sure. But beyond that, I think it's each and of themselves. Most of the home office workers are left to their own devices.
Oh, I mean, my wife works from home 2-3 days a week, and I set up a dual monitor setup for her in the beginning. Got a little like $90 camera right when COVID first started. I tried to order 2. She's like, we don't need 2 of those. I'm not going to be home that long. This will be yours when this is all over. So then it took me like 6 months to get another one for me. But that's all she's had. She's got the dual monitors that were my dual monitors when I set up that office, and then she took it over during COVID. It's now still hers. And a little external camera, and that's it. That's her home office setup. You don't frankly need, and she uses her AirPods or some nice headphones. That's probably the only thing people want is something, a good headphones maybe. That's about the only other thing.
Now, I was going to ask you guys just anecdotally if you've seen much on, again, I kind of touched on there in my earlier statement, but we did see, especially during the COVID time, some sales lag a little bit, but it lagged a little bit for a bunch of reasons, right? We're on the smart lock side. When people are home now and they got 2 adults at home full time, they're less concerned about remote monitoring per se on average. But there's a lot of things that there's 2 different things. When you're home, you want certain things, and when you're away, you want certain things, right? So security and remote access and video and whatever else, they're often they're more critical when you feel like you're away for most of the week. But now that there's somebody almost physically home monitoring a lot of time, I was wondering if you guys have seen any change in the types of systems or what people focus on a little bit more now that they might be home or somebody might be home more often.
I think there was absolutely a definite surge in entertainment during COVID. There was a huge, I think, surge anecdotally that I heard on outdoor, because then people wanted, now all of a sudden they were home and outdoor was safe because they couldn't, the air was better, blah, 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 blah. So the network element, as we discussed, entertainment and from a home theater standpoint, and then also outdoor, we definitely had surges during COVID.
Yeah, I can't talk much of the security aspect because I'm in New York City and most of my clients are in like high-rise doorman buildings. So there's no security camera, there's no alarm system, there's no doorbell. I don't have those categories really.
All right. Thank you guys for joining me for this. It's actually a great conversation. And looking forward to it. Start with Jason. How can we find you or D-Tools online?
You can go to d-tools.com, or you can email me at jasonkay@d-tools.com or connect with me on LinkedIn or X.
Thanks so much. Mark, thank you for joining us. How can we find you? Obviously in Central Park or just around or Home Theater Advisors in that New York area.
Right now, stop by the Great Lawn. I'm just off of that, and you can sit down and have a coffee. But otherwise, it's Mark at hometheateradvisors.com. Or on Facebook, it's HT Advisors at HT Advisors on Facebook, and Mark Feinberg on LinkedIn.
I do want to say we are recording this the day before it posts, so he might not be there. I don't know his schedule.
Fair point.
Brad, thank you for joining us. How can we find more about you or Alfred?
Yeah, sure. You can go to alfredlocks.com, ALFRED locks.com. You can see a lot about our stuff there. And probably best to find me on LinkedIn. Connect with me there. It's an easy way to see what we're doing and keep in touch. But thanks for having me.
Right. Thank you. For me, I'm going to take a page from Tim. Don't follow me online. I'm not that interesting. Instead, go check out avnation.tv, where you can get shows more like this. the state of control, which is all about control systems and programming, to prove that it's not entirely dead yet. And if you are listening to this on your podcast choice, whatever you get them from, consider also checking out the YouTube version, which has the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, then go do the opposite thing. But really, go to avnation.tv. We've got our videos and audio there. We've got shows and coverage for shows like CEDIA Expo and Infocom and ISE, which is rapidly coming up as much as I don't want to admit it. So check all that out online. This has been ResiWeek,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.